When it comes to Wrath of the Lich King, there are multiple raids, multiple difficulties, and multiple sizes. So when it comes to actually building BIS lists, it can be quite difficult. The reason I say this is because if you're a 10-man raiding guild that does all content, you're going to have access to Nax, VOA, Obsidian Sanctum, and Eye of Eternity. And you're doing this on 10-man. So your BIS list would look very different from a 10-man raiding perspective than what it would if you had all of the items available in a 25-man raid setting. Today we're looking at feral DPS, but I will be covering BIS lists for every single spec. All of these have been run through Raw, through Simcraft, and obviously some common sense as well. I'm going to break down what the best item is, some alternatives, and where they come from for each slot for both a 25-man raiding guild and a 10-man raiding guild. Now, if you're in a 10-man raiding guild, I have included VOA 25. That's purely because you don't need to be in a guild to do VOA. You will pug VOA. You could pug 25-man every week, but let's say you're not bothered about pugging proper content. VOA is just one boss each tier that's relevant. So VOA will just be included as a 25-man, even as a 10-man guild. Let's get into it. Oh, like and subscribe. Thanks. So first of all, we'll look at the actual full BIS 10-25-man. So that means you're raiding all content. For the head, you're going to want to get your tier 7.5 head, which is the 25-man token, which comes from Kel'Thuzad, which is the final boss in Nax, giving you a good amount of agility, your meta socket, obviously that's very important, and crit, armor pen, and attack power. A couple of alternatives to this would be Hood of Exodus, which comes from Gothic the Harvester, again in Nax 25. And of course, if you was engineering, you could also make the weakness spectralizers, which are actually very good. You'll notice the weakness spectralizers actually fall under the 10-man category, and that's of course because you don't need to raid 25-man to actually be able to obtain them, because they are just from a profession. For the neck, Fervor of the Dragon Queen will be your BIS, which comes from Heroic Judgment of the Eye of Eternity. So actually, I've put this down as Nax, because the quest item comes from Sapphiron, which is the second to last boss, and you need to get an item, and it only drops one item per raid, which starts a quest, which then sends you in to kill Malagos, and then for handing that in, you get this neck. Some alternatives to it is the 10-man version, which is very good, giving very similar stats, but obviously just less, because the item level is 213, opposed to the 226 item level you get from the 25-man version. And then finally, you got Gem of Imprisoned Vassals, which actually comes from Kel'Thuzad in Nax 10. So actually, your second and third options will be covered in the 10-man BIS section. Then for your shoulders, you've got your tier 7.5, again from the 25-man version of Nax. It does just say Mantle of the Lost Vanquisher, which is actually the tier token item that you'll be using. That's purely because it drops from numerous bosses in Nax 25. This one in particular is Gloof and Loatheb, but in this column, if it ever just shows you the name of the actual token, then that means normally it drops from multiple bosses. Some alternatives to this would just be the Nax 10 version and Spaulders of Egotism, which comes from Nax 25, but these are actually BOE, so technically, even as a 10-man guild, you could get one of these. Drape of the Deadly Foe from Kel'Thuzad in 25-man will be your BIS back, although actually when running sims on these, it comes very, very close with Aged Winter Cloak, giving you crit, attack power, and armor pen. And Aged Winter Cloak comes from Nax 25 again. And which one of these is actually better for you at any given time will depend on all the other items that you've got equipped. But generally using all of the items on this list shown in the primary positions, then Drape of the Deadly Foe will be the best. Sinner's Bindings for the Bracers, which is agility, stamina, crit, haste, and attack power. Again from Nax 25 from Mayexner. The other two alternatives, one of them being 213 eye level, so it is Nax 25 eye level, but it just comes from Emblems of Valor. And then there's a 10-man option, which we'll look at for the 10-man section. Frosted Adroit Handguards from Malagos, so Eye of Eternity 25, giving you a lot of agility, a lot of stamina, and this is 226 eye level, so in phase 1, this is the highest eye level of equipment that you can actually get. So this is the equivalent to KT 25 loot in Nax, giving you hit, crit, and attack power, which is obviously fantastic. Both of these alternatives come from 10-man, so we'll talk about that shortly. For your belt slot, you're going to want Stalk Skin Belt, which comes from Hygen the Unclean, giving crit, haste, and attack power, with, of course, agility and stamina. In terms of 25, the other alternative to this, if you need the hit, depending on what other items you've got equipped in other slots, you've got the belt from Patchwork, which gives hit, crit, and attack power. And do remember, a BIS list is only as strong as the rest of the items, and what I mean by that is, using this exact setup that I'm showing you now will get you, with a couple of gems and enchants, hit cap, expertise capped, a good amount of crit, and obviously lots of attack power. So if any of these items you lack, such as the gloves, which have hit on, there might be one of the secondary items that's got hit on in one of the other slots that you actually want to equip until you get every item on this list. Leggings of the Honoured, which come from Sarfarian 25 and Obsidian Sanctum, give agility, attack power, hit, and haste, with 2 sockets again. 226, so highest level of gear you can possibly obtain. Another 25-man alternative would be Leggings of Fleeting Moments with crit, haste, and attack power, It has more agility, but you do miss out on the 2 sockets. And obviously you do lack the hit compared to Leggings of the Honoured as well. Or of course, you can go for your tier 7.5, which is the 25-man tier legs, but you can also get these in Vault of Archivon. So they are listed as a 10-man item as well. But of course, they are actually a 25-man piece, and you can get the 25-man token from Nax. For your feet, foot wraps of Vile Deceit, giving agility, stamina, a nice gem socket, and much needed expertise. You are getting haste and attack power on these as well, and these come from lower Feb in Nax 25. Your other 25-man alternative would be Dawnwalkers, which come from Annabrecken, which is the first boss in the Spider Wing of Nax, giving crit, hit, and attack power. And this is the sort of item I was talking about, where if you haven't got one of the heavy, big hit items in one of the other slots, like the gloves or even the legs from Sarfarian, you could pick up these boots from Annabrecken for the hit until you get the other item. So actually the second option in this particular slot being feet could be very useful to get the hit boots if that's what you was lacking at the time. Now, the interesting thing about these rings is there's not a single one here that requires you being a hardcore 25-man raiding guild to actually obtain. So you've got Surge Needle Ring, which comes from EOE, which is Malagos, and this is on 10-man, but it is also only a BOE. And it's a very, very good ring because of the hit, the crit, the attack power, agility, stamina. A lot of classes are going to want this, and this will be selling for quite a lot on the auction house. But you have to bear that in mind as well. You can just buy it from the auction house if you're stacked out in gold. And then for your second ring slot, you're going to want Great Ring of Collision, which is agility, stamina. It's quite low on agility, but you do get a gem socket. And then it's got attack power, crit, and armor pen. The thing is, any one of these rings actually could be used in the second slot, and they are all obtainable from 10-man, so we'll talk more about those shortly. For your first trinket slot, Grim Toll is a great one. It's got lots of hit, which you are going to need. The proc at level 80 gives you 43% armor pen when it goes off, giving 612 armor pen. And what you would have noticed about this set, even though we're not going out of our way to try and get armor pen capped in phase 1 or anything like that, it does naturally, the items that we want naturally come with a lot of armor pen, like the head, like the ring, even Age Winter Cloak if you chose to use that over the one from KT25, for example. So you can actually start getting decent amounts of armor pen as a Feral Druid anyway, even in phase 1, where Grim Toll is absolutely worth using. But I don't want you to think that we are using it purely for the armor pen proc from it, even though that's very nice. We are really interested in the hit from it. So Grim Toll will be in your first slot, and you know what's going to be in your second slot straight away. Darkmoon Card Greatness, Agility. The Strength one's actually very, very good as well, but I would choose the Agility one, especially in phase 1. So Darkmoon Card Greatness comes from Darkmoon Card Nobles deck, which is actually crafted by Inscription, and these are going to be quite expensive, but ultimately it is something that you can farm on your own and slowly make your way towards obtaining just by going around herbing, doing some Inscription. This should be one of your primary focuses when phase 1 drops. The alternative 25-man trinkets is Bandit's Insignia from Nax, which comes from Sapphiron. It's got a nice amount of attack power. The proc on it is neither in nor there, but the attack power is quite nice. And then you've got Fury of the 5 Flights from OS25, which is 16 attack power, stacking up to 20 times. So you are missing out on a juicy proc or anything like that, but it is just static attack power. But ideally, you're going to want to be going for Grim Toll and Darkmoon Card Greatness as your primaries. But when it comes to the weapon for 25-man, I don't even want to talk about any alternatives. We'll look at the alternatives when we get to the 10-man section, which we're going to do any minute now. But Journey's End is the weapon that you should be striving and aiming to try and get in phase 1. So it's the two-handed staff that comes from Kel'Thuzad in Nax on 25-man. Due to the way feral attack power works, the higher eye level of the item, the more feral attack power you're going to get, obviously, because any weapon in the game over 54.8 DPS will give you feral attack power. So the higher the weapon DPS, the more feral attack power you're going to get from the staff. So ultimately, this is what you're going to want. And then when it comes to idols, I'm going to show you both idols because you will want both of these idols because situationally you'll switch between the two. But you've got Idol of Worship, which increases periodic damage done by Rip by 21 per combo point. You can get this from Emblems of Valor, but you can also actually get it in Nax as well from Grand Widow Felina. And Idol of the Ravenous Beast increases damage dealt by Shred by 203. Now do note that both of these do come from 10 man, so whether you're a 25-man raiding guild or a 10-man raiding guild, every Feral Druid has got access to both of these, and you absolutely should get both of them. Now, if we just flick the 25-man filter off, so we're just looking at 10-man now, we'll quickly fly through the best options if you're a 10-man raiding guild and you're a Feral DPS Druid. Do note, this tool has every class and every spec all tested by me with Simcraft, with Raw, and with hours and hours and hours of research for every class and spec. The tool itself wasn't built by me. It was actually built by Cirrhosis of Mirage Raceway Horde, so shout out to him. Thank you very much, mate. You're doing a fantastic job, and you have to keep putting up with my requests that I keep sending you, so you deserve a shout out. And before anybody asks, this will be online on Scottejaye.com very, very soon. So like I said, we'll now switch to just 10 man, so you'll notice all of the items have now changed, and we'll have a quick look at what you can get in each slot, but we will go over this briefly because I think most of you will probably be doing 25 man. But if you are doing exclusively 10 man, your BIS is going to be the engineering goggles, weakness spectralizers. So if you are planning on being a 10 man raiding druid and that's it, I would heavily recommend going into Wrath of the Lich King with engineering. For your neck, we've already spoke about the neck that comes from Sapphiron in 10 man, but then leads you into killing Malagos to be able to obtain this neck, giving you attack, crit and armor pen. And we've also spoke about Gem of Imprisoned Vassals that comes from KT on 10 man. Your tier shoulders should be an absolute must, which comes from, again, multiple bosses in Nax on 10 man, so you want to get hold of these, not even given any alternatives to this. Hammerhead Sharkskin Cloak is going to be your BIS, and this comes from Emblems of Valor. Whilst you'll get Emblems of Valor slowly as a 10 man raiding guild because you'll be relying on your daily heroic, which there will be the daily heroic quest giver, but obviously you won't get 2 extra emblems from random dungeon finder because actually private servers, another thing that they've got wrong is you can do the daily heroic and you can get 2 extra emblems from doing a random dungeon finder. The daily quest givers were actually removed when random dungeon finder was implemented. So yes, getting Emblems of Valor is going to be a lot slower in Classic, but exactly how it was back in the day. But ultimately, you can still get the cloak, even as a 10 man raiding guild. The same goes for wrist wraps of the Cutthroat. These are from Emblems of Valor as well, but these can actually be bought on the auction house or from somebody you know that does 25 man. Again, absolute BIS if all you're looking for is 10 man raiding stuff. But there is an alternative from Nax 10, from Hygan the Unclean. You can get Cuffs of the Dark Shadows, which is crit, attack power, and armor pen, and this will definitely tide you over until you can afford to buy wrist wraps of the Cutthroat. Your 25 man tier gloves are going to be your BIS as even a 10 man raiding druid because Archivon in VOA drops these gloves. So it is going to be very luck based that you actually get them one day, but ultimately raiding 10 man and pugging VOA every week, you can obtain these as part of your 10 man BIS setup. But aside from that, a more reliable one actually comes from Nax 25 from Sapphiron, but they are BOE, so you'll be able to pick these up off the auction house, giving you crit, haste, attack power, 66 agility, and a gem socket. Belt wise, you're just going to want to get your Emblem of Heroism belt because the expertise is very nice. So this gives crit, expertise, and attack power with a socket, and you'll add another socket obviously, and gives you a nice amount of agility and stamina. The same applies to the legs as the gloves. Your 25 man tier set legs are going to be BIS, and these do drop in VOA from Archivon. Due to the amount of expertise these give and the amount of expertise you're going to need, there is no alternatives. You really want to get lucky and get these legs. Boots of the Worshipper from Grand Widow Felina are going to be your BIS, giving haste, crit, and attack power with a decent amount of agility and stamina. When it comes to the rings, 10 and 25 man BIS is exactly the same, because the 2 best rings that you're going to use actually come from 10 man raids anyway. So Surge Needle ring and Great Ring in a Collision, but there are a lot of alternatives such as the Emblem of Valor ring, which gives crit, haste, and attack power, the Titanium Impact Band, which is crafted by Jewel Crafting, which gives agility, stamina, a socket, with attack power and armor pen, and there's even a ring from Grobulus in Nax 10, which gives haste, crit, and attack power. But ultimately, any combination of these rings will work, but you really do want Great Ring of Collision and Surge Needle ring preferably. There are no alternatives to trinkets. The trinkets that you're going to want as a 10 man raiding druid is Mirror of Truth, which is from Emblems of Heroism, which gives you a big amount of crit and a chance to gain 1,000 attack power for 10 seconds. And Darkmoon Card Greatness. When it comes to weapons, there are a lot of options for a 10 man druid. You've got Black Ice, which comes from Malagos, which has got hit, haste, and attack power. By no means do I think this is the best, but with this particular setup we're looking at, the hit is going to be very valuable. But if you've been gemming or enchanting hit, so you actually are already hit capped, then Staff of the Plague Hound will probably be your best bet because you'll need the expertise instead. Given the same amount of feral attack power, less agility but more attack power on the weapon, and as I say, getting that expertise is going to be very nice. On the idols, the same applies. You're going to want to get both. And that's it, guys. I know that was a bit of a long one, but if you're a feral druid, hopefully you enjoyed it. If you're not a feral druid, I am going to be doing these for every single class. Going through this tool, going through every class and every spec, and obviously all the future raid tiers as well, which are already built into this tool. So be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you to everybody who's been subscribing recently. Well, thank you to all of you for being subscribers, obviously, but thank you to those that are subscribing recently. We're nearly at 40k, just want that big push. So Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed, and roll the outro. There's lots of ways you can support the channel to keep me here putting out World of Warcraft content and covering all future MMOs. Consider joining the channel as a member. You get access to emotes, everyone will know you're a member when you comment on future videos because you get a nice icon next to your name, and you get access to members-only videos, which I'll be putting a lot of on the channel throughout the year. Additionally, there's a Patreon link in the description as well. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you on the next one.